Many people spend their lives believing they need to beg the universe for their desires to come true. They ask with faith, pray, repeat mantras, make promises, and yet, silence seems to be the only answer. But what few realize is that the universe doesn't ignore anyone, it simply doesn't speak the language we're accustomed to using. For centuries, we've been taught to ask as though we're pleading, to look to the sky in search of an external force that grants our wishes. But the universe is not a judge distributing rewards and punishments. It is a vibrational mirror that reflects exactly what each person emits. It doesn't respond to words, it responds to frequency. It doesn't hear fear disguised as faith, but the silent certainty of those who already feel in communion with the whole. And here lies the revelation. Speaking to the universe is not speaking to something outside of us. It's harmonizing our internal vibration so that the reflection of reality shifts in our direction. Everything you desire already exists, but not on the plane where anxiety lives. The universe doesn't understand desperate requests, it understands vibrational coherence. Your current life is the exact portrait of what you vibrate, not what you say. Perhaps you've felt this in small moments, when you thought of someone and they called you right after, when coincidences led you to be in the right place at the right time, or when something simply clicked inside you and everything seemed to align. These weren't accidents, they were responses. They were subtle conversations between you and the cosmic field that surrounds you. In this video, you'll understand what it truly means to communicate with the universe. You'll discover why your desires don't always manifest, and what changes when you learn to emit the correct frequency. This is not an invitation to believe in something mystical, it's an invitation to remember what you already are, a conscious extension of universal intelligence itself. And when you deeply understand this, you'll realize that the universe never stopped listening to you. It was just waiting for you to learn to speak its language. When someone contemplates the mystery of the universe with true attention, something silent happens within the heart. It's as if an ancient memory awakens, recalling that the cosmos was never outside, distant, or separated from the being who observes. The universe is a living, pulsating consciousness that responds with precision to the vibration each human being emits. This response is not a poetic metaphor, but an energetic reality that sustains all visible manifestations. The universe, in its wisdom, acts as a vibrational mirror. It reflects not what someone desires with words, but what the person is in the deepest part of their energy field. Every thought, every emotion, every conscious or unconscious intention carries a specific signature. This signature is a frequency that propagates through the subtle layers of reality, shaping circumstances and attracting events that resonate with the emitted vibration. When the mind is filled with fear, doubt, and anxiety, the cosmic mirror returns reflections of resistance and limitation. But when consciousness stabilizes in trust, gratitude, and love, the reflection changes, and the universe reorganizes its invisible forces to correspond to the new frequency. Nothing escapes this subtle law of resonance. Those who study the vibrational structure of reality understand that matter is merely the densest part of an energetic symphony. What is perceived as solid is, in truth, an orchestra of subtle fields in harmony. Therefore, communicating with the universe is an act of attunement, not supplication. It's not about asking for something to come from outside, but about internally adjusting one's state of being so that the reflection returns in consonance. Just as a mirror doesn't create the face that contemplates it, the universe doesn't create the desire. It only reflects it according to the energy projected. It's at this point that many become confused, believing that repeated words or mechanical affirmations possess power of their own. True vibration doesn't arise from speech, but from coherence between thought, emotion, and intention. When these three elements align, the frequency becomes pure, cohesive, magnetic. The vibration rises and the universe responds with precision. This is the silent dialogue between being and cosmos, an energetic conversation in which every feeling is a word and every intention is a sentence spoken in the language of frequencies. Upon understanding this, the relationship with reality changes profoundly. The individual stops seeing the universe as a judge who decides who is worthy or not to receive. They begin to recognize it as an intelligent, neutral system that simply reflects the vibration it perceives. Creation becomes a conscious process, a dance between emitter and reflection, where inner harmony determines the external scenario. This perception brings power, but also responsibility. Because, knowing that every emotion emanates a message, one understands that everything experienced was, at some level, called forth by one's own vibration. The universe is precise. It doesn't fail to respond, doesn't forget requests, nor ignore vibrations. It simply reflects, patiently, what is presented to it. Therefore, the key is not in convincing the cosmos, but in learning to observe and calibrate one's own frequency. When a human being becomes conscious of this quantum mirror, they begin a journey of vibrational self-mastery, in which external reality becomes a field of constant learning. Every event, every encounter, every silence between one event and another is a reflection of the subtle waves emanating from within. And as this perception deepens, a new understanding emerges. Words are merely sound surfaces, but vibration is the primordial language. It is through vibration that the universe listens, responds, and creates. And upon recognizing this, the seeker begins to perceive that there is an even deeper form of communication that transcends the verb and dwells in feeling, a language beyond words, waiting silently, ready to be awakened. The universe doesn't communicate through human phrases or dialect. It responds to the authentic vibration of emotion, to the clarity of intention, and to the consistency of the energy one emanates. What many call prayer, affirmation, or request are, in truth, attempts to translate something that can only be understood through the silent language of feeling. This is the primordial language, the one that existed long before the first word was spoken. When someone wishes to connect with the universal field, they must learn to speak with the heart, not with the discursive mind. The mind thinks in concepts, the heart vibrates in frequencies. It is in the heart that the energy of creation transforms into living communication. When an emotion is genuine, the energetic field expands and harmonizes with subtle planes of consciousness. In that moment, the universe captures the signal, not through phrases, but through the vibrational quality of the feeling. Therefore, it's useless to desire something while feeling the opposite. Saying, "I want prosperity," while the body vibrates fear of scarcity is like trying to tune into two radio stations at the same time. The message becomes distorted, and the reflection that returns is confused. The language beyond words is made of vibrational coherence. It requires that thought visualize, that the body feel, and that the heart believe, all in perfect synchrony. When this coherence is achieved, a morphogenetic field forms, an energetic matrix of information that begins to influence probabilities in the quantum fabric of reality. Everything that exists responds to this matrix. Particles, circumstances, encounters, coincidences, everything begins to move toward the vibration that consciousness sustains with clarity. At this point, imagination ceases to be merely a mental exercise and becomes a creative portal. The mind creates images. The energetic field gives them life. Seeing, feeling, and being grateful as if something has already been realized is the code the universe understands. Gratitude, in this context, is not a moral gesture, but a vibrational signature that communicates to the cosmos. This is already present in my field of reality. And when the universe perceives this certainty, it reorganizes the timelines so that the experience manifests in tangible form. This communication happens subtly, almost imperceptibly to eyes trained only for the physical world. It is a continuous dialogue between internal vibration and the quantum ocean that surrounds everything. Those who develop energetic sensitivity can perceive when they are being understood, because the universe responds with gentleness, a sensation of peace, an unexpected sign, a flow that opens naturally. This is the language of synchronicity, of certainty, of silent confidence. Words, however beautiful they may be, don't reach the totality of this language. They are merely imperfect translators of something the spirit expresses in waves of energy. Therefore, when someone wants to communicate with the universe, they must learn to feel what they speak. The word must be born from within, carried by emotional truth. Only then does it gain sufficient vibrational power to be heard in the dimensions where causes are generated. And when this communication becomes constant, something remarkable happens. The seeker realizes they are no longer asking, they are conversing. The separation between I and universe begins to dissolve, and consciousness recognizes that it has always been receiving responses. The language beyond words is the art of listening to silence and responding with vibration. And when this art is mastered, the dialogue becomes so natural that even the act of desiring changes form, preparing the way for an even more subtle learning, one that teaches the mystery of wanting without clinging to the result. The mystery of realities unfolding always challenges human logic, because the universe obeys laws that the common mind doesn't yet understand. One of these mysteries is the paradox of conscious detachment. It says that for something to manifest, one must desire with intensity and, at the same time, completely release the result. At first glance, this seems contradictory, but it is precisely in this apparent conflict that consciousness expands. Desiring is the act of directing energy. It's when the human being declares to the universe the vibration they choose to experience. But attachment is the gesture that blocks this energy, because it transmits a message of lack. When someone wants something desperately, they are actually energetically affirming that they don't possess it, that it's distant, that they need to fill a void. And the universe, always faithful to the frequency it receives, responds with more experiences of absence. Pure desire creates movement, attachment creates resistance. Conscious detachment is not indifference, nor denial of wanting. It is vibrational trust. It's knowing that once the request has been emitted with clarity and true emotion, it has already been registered in the field of possibilities. At that instant, creation begins, even if invisible to physical eyes. From then on, the seeker's role is to maintain the frequency corresponding to the desired reality, the vibration of certainty, not of waiting. The universe doesn't work with linear time, it responds to dominant frequency. If the mind vibrates in anxiety, time drags. If it vibrates in confidence, paths accelerate. Detachment arises when consciousness recognizes that control is an illusion. The ego wants to define how, when, and in what form the result should come, but cosmic intelligence possesses infinitely greater wisdom. It sees connections that the human mind doesn't perceive. When the result is surrendered to the universe, space opens for the quantum field to act without interference. Flow is restored, and energy begins to circulate with lightness. It's at this point that wanting transforms into a state of being. Desire ceases to be a lack and becomes a vibration of expansion. When trust is real, the body relaxes, the mind quiets, and the heart remains at peace. This serenity is a powerful vibrational signal, because it shows that the frequency of realization has already been integrated. The universe interprets this state as a confirmation that the desire is part of present reality, not a distant future. And when this coherence is sustained, circumstances begin to align, often in unpredictable ways, guided by the invisible intelligence that weaves destiny. There comes a moment when the seeker realizes they are no longer trying to manifest something, but simply allowing what has already been created to reveal itself. This is the point of true surrender, when doing gives way to being. In this state, time loses importance, doubt dissolves, and the universe becomes a silent ally working behind the scenes of reality. It's as if consciousness says, "I trust, and therefore I no longer need to hold on." And this trust opens doors that effort could never open. The paradox of conscious detachment is the bridge between wanting and allowing. It's the balance between intention and surrender, between focus and release. When the seeker understands this principle, they begin to live in harmony with the rhythm of the cosmos, feeling that everything happens at the exact moment they are ready to receive. And upon discovering this fluidity, they understand that there are ways to reinforce this connection, to anchor intention in the physical plane more tangibly, and it's at this point that rituals enter as sacred instruments of manifestation. When consciousness reaches the understanding that the universe responds to vibration, the need arises to create ways to anchor this energy in the physical plane. It's at this point that rituals reveal their true function. They are not gestures of superstition, but precise instruments of concentration and energetic direction. A ritual is, essentially, a symbolic language that communicates to the universe, through body and mind, the deep intention of the spirit. Every symbolic action is a vibrational code. Lighting a candle, for example, is not just generating light, but awakening in the unconscious the memory of the divine spark that dwells in every being. Writing an intention is not a simple act of recording words, but a process of thought materialization. The paper becomes the physical mirror of the emitted vibration, and the act of writing transforms subtle energy into tangible form. When consciousness fully participates in this process, the energetic field strengthens, and the universe recognizes the clarity of the emission. The ancients understood this with precision. Every gesture, every sound, every color used in a ritual was chosen not by tradition, but by the frequency it carried. The candle, the incense, the stone, the mantra, all are tools that serve to align body, mind, and spirit around the same purpose. When the ritual is performed with presence, the nervous system synchronizes with intention, heart rhythm adjusts, breathing stabilizes, and the auric field expands. The body, which is the temple of consciousness, becomes a living antenna transmitting a clear signal to the universe. It's important to understand that power doesn't reside in the object, but in the consciousness that uses it. A crystal in distracted hands is just a stone, but in the hands of one who understands the vibration it carries, it becomes an extension of divine will. The ritual is the portal between worlds. It translates the invisible into gesture, thought into matter, emotion into symbol. When performed with purity of intention, it creates a link between the subtle plane and the dense plane, allowing energy to flow in both directions. Modern science is beginning to recognize the effect of concentrated intention. Studies on heart coherence and field resonance indicate that human energy is capable of influencing physical structures and even electromagnetic patterns. The ritual, in this context, is an ancestral technology of focus and alignment. It organizes mental chaos, centralizes attention, and allows vital energy to move toward a specific purpose. By consciously participating in a ritual, the seeker declares to the universe, "I am ready to cooperate with the flow of creation." This declaration is not verbal, it is vibrational. The universe responds not to the isolated gesture, but to the emotion impregnated in the act. Therefore, the ritual only has value when the heart is present. There's no use lighting 100 candles with a scattered mind. A single flame lit with full devotion is enough to move invisible mountains. When the ritual ends, something remains, a vibration anchored in time and space, like an energetic seed about to germinate. Reality, silently, begins to reorganize around this new emission. And as days pass, the universe begins to respond with subtle signs, small echoes that confirm the cosmic dialogue is alive and active. These are the synchronicities that emerge, revealing that the universal field heard the call and is already responding, even before the mind perceives it. When the seeker begins to align their vibration with clarity and purpose, the universe starts to respond in subtle ways, almost imperceptible to those who live only in the noise of the mind. These responses don't come in words or grand signs, but in small coincidences that interweave with almost magical precision. These are synchronicities, manifestations of cosmic intelligence that confirm the dialogue between being and the whole. Synchronicity is how the universe speaks. It is the language of the invisible becoming visible. When a deep thought is followed by an event that reflects exactly that idea, it's not chance. It's the vibrational mirror of reality responding. It's the silent proof that the vibration was heard and returned in the form of event, encounter, or insight. The universe uses everything that exists as a means of communication: people, phrases heard by chance, repeated numbers, songs, dreams. Every detail can carry a message encoded in the frequency of experience. To perceive these messages, it's necessary to develop sensitivity. The logical mind seeks explanations, but the intuitive heart recognizes the hidden meaning. When the seeker learns to observe life as a field of symbolic communication, they perceive that nothing is trivial. A delay can be protection, an encounter can be an answer, a detour can be a cosmic redirection. The universe doesn't operate by the linearity of reason, but by the precision of resonance. It organizes external circumstances according to the internal frequency of the observer. Synchronicities not only confirm the path, but also adjust it. Often, they appear when energy begins to misalign, reminding consciousness that something needs to be recalibrated. Other times, they emerge as a beacon, signaling that the request was received and that the manifestation process is already underway. Those who learn to trust them begin to live in a state of lightness, understanding that life is a constant conversation with the universal field. There is a silent wisdom in how these responses arrive. They never force, only invite. They don't prove, only reveal. And when the seeker begins to recognize this communication, a new reality opens, a reality where chance ceases to exist, and everything gains purpose. Consciousness perceives that it is being guided by a greater intelligence, a presence that observes and cooperates at every step of the journey. Recognizing a synchronicity is recognizing that one is being heard. It's a reminder that the vibration launched into the universe found its echo and is returning in the form of experience. It's at this point that the seeker begins to understand that cosmic dialogue is reciprocal, and that manifestation is not an isolated miracle, but a continuous process of energetic communication. Each synchronicity is like a whisper from the universe saying, "Continue, you're on the right path." And as this perception deepens, the seeker understands that the dialogue doesn't end with receiving signs. There comes a moment when the universe stops merely responding and begins to act in partnership. At this stage, signs transform into opportunities, impulses become calls to action, and synchronicity converts into direction. It's the transition from listening to movement, the point where the universe invites the human being to act from the inspiration it itself awakened. There comes a point in the journey when the seeker realizes that dialogue with the universe doesn't end in the silence of meditation, nor in the vibrations they emit. Speaking to the universe is also learning to respond when it speaks. This response manifests in the form of inspired action, a movement born from vibrational alignment and not from the ego's urgency. Inspired action is neither impulsive nor forced. It arises naturally, like a flow that seems to guide the individual smoothly, even when the path is challenging. When the internal field is in coherence, the universe begins to place signs, opportunities, and people in perfect synchrony. Each step taken with this awareness becomes part of a cosmic dance between being and creation. Intuition becomes a compass, time ceases to be an obstacle, and action begins to carry the energy of inevitability. What once seemed like effort becomes fluidity. This is the stage where energy transmutes into matter, where the invisible begins to take form, guided by consciousness that has learned to trust. Inspired action isn't born from haste, but from listening. When the heart is in tune with the universal field, internal impulses become clear. An unmistakable feeling arises, a silent certainty that says, "This is the way." This sensation is the universe communicating through intuition, guiding the seeker along the path of least resistance. This is why the true creator acts without fear. They know they are not alone, that every step is assisted by a greater intelligence working in conjunction with their vibration. There is a profound difference between acting from necessity and acting from inspiration. Action driven by necessity is born from scarcity. It seeks to fill a void. Inspired action, on the other hand, is the fruit of vibrational abundance. It arises when the being already feels complete, and therefore expands. When someone allows themselves to act in this state, the universe cooperates. Doors open, coincidences multiply, and time bends in favor of manifestation. This is true transmutation, transforming energy into reality, intention into movement, vibration into result. The universe responds to vibration, but it is through action that vibration anchors in matter. Manifestation is not a process of passive waiting, but of collaboration. One who speaks to the universe must learn to listen and move when the internal call resonates. Each inspired action is a seed planted in the soil of creation, and each one contains the power to transform the invisible into concrete experience. When consciousness reaches this level of integration, the seeker ceases to be merely a petitioner of the cosmos and becomes a conscious co-creator. They understand that every gesture, thought, and emotion are threads of the same universal fabric, where everything is interconnected. The universe, then, ceases to be something one asks from and becomes a field with which one dances. It's at this point that communication with the divine becomes continuous, not as a prayer that ends, but as an eternal conversation in movement. And thus, the cycle completes itself. The universe reflects vibration, responds to emotion, manifests what is in resonance, and guides being to the action that transforms. The seeker, in turn, realizes they were never separated from the intelligence that creates all that exists. They only needed to remember how to speak the language of the cosmos, the language of feeling, trusting, and acting from the heart. And upon understanding this language, they become not just a listener of the universe, but a living expression of it. The universe makes no distinction between those who believe and those who doubt. It simply reflects. So, what have you been showing it lately? Which version of you is the universe reflecting back? Think about this sincerely. Because the moment you change your vibration, everything around you begins to change as well. If this knowledge touched something within you, put it into practice. Observe the signs, trust in synchronicities, act from inspiration, and you will see the universe respond with clarity. And remember, it's not magic, it's attunement. You are the transmitter and receiver of this infinite energy. Now, I want to invite you to continue this journey. Subscribe to the channel, activate notifications, and stay with me exploring the mysteries of consciousness and the art of co-creating with the universe. Because each video is one more step in this awakening, an invitation for you to truly become the conscious creator of your own reality.